Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Blue Collar Off-Road Podcast. This is episode number 9. Today I'm here with Kish, Cody, Graham, and myself, Luke. And I'm very happy to announce that we are actually on Spotify now with the same name as the Instagram page. So you should be able to pull it up real quick, and that is Blue Collar Off-Road with a 3 for the E. Want to dive into this week's weekly recap, Cody? Or Graham?
Yeah, this week really didn't do too much. Just pretty much cleaned out the Jeep a bit more. I got axle shafts rolling around. I have wheel bearings rolling around. Stuff that just in reality really does not need to be back there. I'm actually considering prepping up a little box to replace the space where my back seat was, making it out of wood so that way I have a more functional toolbox, if you will, but just a more safety feature so that way if I have extra parts or extra tools, they don't go jingling around down trail if I end up flipping this thing over or just doing something dumb. But other than that, that's about it.
I mean, for a group of guys with the sign off of like keep it rubber side down or something along those lines, we do talk about the inevitable issues that come up with the lack of a roll cage quite often.
Well, when a littler Jeep goes hanging out with you bigger guys, it does seem that the 35s don't fit in the same holes as the 40s do. So when I drop down 6 inches more than
Amen.
or 4 inches more, if you will, but depending on squish factor, um, they drop in a bit more than a 40 would. So sometimes rolling the old shit box is the inevitable.
So, interesting little side note, I was at the shop this week and I had the tape measure out. Um, that the Nittos compress so much at 5 psi that I have the same or the same theoretical height as a 35. If you measure off the hub, it's 17 and 3/4 to the center of the hub, and the tire
Huh.
measures up to 37.8 inches tall at like 6 psi. So,
That's
uh,
pretty cool. I wouldn't even have guessed that. I know that you get generically it's like what half an inch based off of every inch of tire, but that's pretty cool.
yeah, it squishes a lot. Graham, you do anything?
On my own stuff, no. The interesting thing that I did do was I went to Rhode Island with my dad, and we picked up a Rocket 350 to replace the one that we have in our 72 Delta 88 Oldsmobile. And the motor we had in it was nothing, it still ran, but I think I've complained about it before, maybe not on the podcast, but it's had this nasty tick for a while, and we were pretty sure it's a wrist pin or something. We haven't taken the other motor apart yet, but this motor just popped on Facebook Marketplace, $1,500. It's got 5,000 miles on it. It's got a mild cam. It's already, just based on looks alone, way better built than the one that was in it. I mean, the motor that we got in the thing originally was, I mean, they built it, quote unquote, but it wasn't built well. You could tell like they've got wires running through the bell housing to get to the starter because they didn't want to lengthen it like 2 inches, and they had just a whole bunch of Mickey Mouse bullshit that was going on with that motor. So this new one should be cool. We just gotta get a couple things. It was missing a torque converter bolt, so probably part of the knock. It wasn't all of it, but that solves one of the knocks. And yeah, that's really all I did.
Yeah, I dealt with a lot of that when I had the AW4 in my 98 after the accident I was in with it. It messed up one of the dowels, and for some reason it kept shooting out flex plates, and the bolts wouldn't stay tight. So me and Richie learned how to get real good at swapping those.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did.
It doesn't sound fun.
Nah, it wasn't. And then we replaced the dowel pins, and suddenly the motor was good. Kish, you do anything this week?
No, I ended up getting called into work over the weekend for an emergency. So between all the stuff from Christmas and a lot of overtime I've been collecting, I was actually planning on ordering brackets and shit to do 1-ton swap stuff. But then this morning I got a call from the fraud people, whatever they're called.
Detection.
Yeah, fraud detection agency. And yeah, someone stole my debit card numbers, and so now I don't have a debit card for a couple weeks.
It's from all the porn, son. You gotta get off the porn.
I'm sorry, it's just I just get so lonely.
Don't you literally sleep next to your wife every night?
We have different sleep schedules. No, but seriously though, it's shit happens, so it sucks, but it just means I'm unfortunately not going to be ordering any parts for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
So I'll just stockpile the money.
I feel that. As I talked last week about the Chromos, had some unexpected bills pop up that are now sucking money from me. So now I mean, I'm still like 3/4 of the way there, but still like the money that I set aside, I had to like slowly like grab a little from, and I'm like, God damn it, man! I like just got myself to like a good point where I could get myself some fucking Chromos, and so it feels the same where like you get 5 steps forward and it's just like, oh, take another step back. Oh, hey, while you're there, take another step back, asshole, because like fuck you. Like it's frustrating.
yeah, I feel that. Morgan's had an issue with her tires up front. She got a nail through one of them, and then another one, suspension component failed and took it out, so had to get all that stuff fixed.
So what's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
That was fun.
So what's everybody drinking tonight? What we got on the tables?
Classic Two Roads Honey Spot Road IPA Unfiltered India Pale Ale.
So now, did you stir that, mister, or are you a fucking pleb?
Well, you see, you reach into the fridge, right? You do this one motion as you pull it back, and you pop the tab, and then you drink it.
Oh, it's unfiltered, you swine. You gotta at least tip it over and get him a little turn. Come on, man.
Yeah,
Jesus
that happens
Christ.
in the motion when you rotate it from on its side to vertical as you're doing that one pull out of the fridge with the sick pop top.
See, that's just complicated.
See, well, tonight, I mean, I'm kind of going with the usual tried and true. Got the Gentleman and Ginger, a little bit of Gentleman Jack, kind of just off the wrist, give it a little 1-2, and then you come over, grab the ginger ale, give it another 3-4, and send her on her way. It's a lot easier than a filtered beer that weirdos drink. Can't even imagine.
Speaking of weirdos, Graham, what about you?
Well, I'm drinking Two Roads as well, but I'm drinking a No Limits. I'm gonna butcher it. Hefeweizen. I'm an IPA guy. I don't usually drink ales or whatever this is, but it's pretty good. I like it. I'm not a IPA in the winter. Just isn't. It's too much bite. I like it in the summer. Huge
Fair.
IPA guy. Sours, IPAs, all that stuff in the summer. And I've been getting into more mixed stuff for the winter. It's just been kind of fun with quarantine and shit. So past couple times I've had mixed drinks, various things. I've never really mixed drinks before, like last month, so I'm sort of getting into that. But today, all I got is Two Roads.
My
That's
problem
fair.
with that is whenever I start doing that, I end up hammered.
Well, I like it because it adds, like, you feel like a chemist, right? You're going through, you're like, what is this one? You like look at all the different things you need. You go to the store, you buy the bottles that have the crazy shit with weird names, and you go and bring it back and you mix it up, and it tastes good, and it gets you drunk. So
I
don't
mean, that
know,
is
it's
a
fun.
solid win for sure.
And let me guess, Richie. Is it a Smirnoff night?
Oh, you know me. I love having super complicated drinks. Straight Jack Daniels.
You're
Yeah,
Straight
already
from the fucking
slurring
bottle.
your words. Is this going to be another
That-
episode of the worst mods possible by throwing a Dana 50 in there while you're slurring your damn words?
That's just me being stupid.
That's fair enough. Well, cheers.
I've
boys.
literally only
Cheers.
had like 4 shots already.
Only
well,
4, you say?
Yeah, well,
So
for me, 4's not a lot, but that's a different story for a different time.
Especially when
so
we're doing this just to have a conversation too, like specifically here to listen to our voices. Having 4, it slowly starts to get to the point of yeah, exactly.
so
I
yeah.
sound like that sober.
How many shots of Jack Daniels went into deciding to put the Dana 50 under there?
Actually, none. I decided that fucking on the drive home from looking at it. It just happened after I got home, and then my dad got home a couple hours later that he was like, "Oh, here's your pay, Richie, from working with me the last few times." And it was like, "Hey, that's enough to buy the axles. Perfect."
Can't beat
Solid
that.
answer. Yeah,
Um,
it's hard to complain with that.
So don't follow my lead and put the Pata sucks on there. I mean, those things were probably the worst
But
modification that
that's
I've
what I
done.
was going to do.
Genital grabbers.
I was totally going to do that.
genital
Genital
grabbers.
grabbers are definitely the worst modification you've done.
Never. Those are the best. Well, I mean, in reality, I was on fucking donuts beforehand, so any tire would have been better. A bald MTR at one of our friends. I mean, honestly, I would have went with a set of super swampers before I mean, technically the IROX are super swampers at that point, but still, yeah, any tire would have been better. But those genital grabbers, man, hoo-wee, love those fuckers.
So in that case, I have to ask everyone, what was the worst modification you guys have actually done?
Sliders,
No.
not sliders. Sorry, pardon me. Stiffeners, stiffeners, slider. I was thinking best mod when Richie was ranting and raving about his sliders that it got me in a tizzy. But no, definitely my stiffeners. Christ Almighty, did I learn that I am the worst welder there is to mankind. Granted, I mean I love it now because it has opened up the fact of having like the 3-link and point to mount sliders when I do them or anything of that matter. But
It doesn't really sound like you regret them then. I mean, like,
so I don't regret them. I just regret the time that it took to do them. It was a lengthy process that I wasn't fully prepared for. If I had kind of mentally prepared myself a little bit more and set myself like, hey, just get it fucking done. It needs to be done. Just take the time, take the effort, and like you're wasting shop time right now. Just get it the fuck done. Then I wouldn't even be saying it right now. But just I went into it ill prepared mentally, and but other than that, I really have zero regrets that I've done. The only modification I'd have to say is changing out my black hatch. I miss that thing. I hate looking at the spooky booty orange that's on the fucking thing.
I
Like,
love it.
I know.
it's yours.
Other than the fact that it doesn't work, and you destroyed it. I don't know how.
Ask
It's-
Luke, dude. I swear to God, though, we opened it up at Kish's house one day, and it just would no longer close because it was rattling like a son of a bitch, and my check trunk light was on. So I walked back, and the next second it just fucking split because somebody was fucking with it. Actually, somebody was. So I forget. I think it was Colin. Colin was fucking with it, and it literally split in half
Jesus.
horizontally, not even or like actually, I guess vertically now.
Yeah, it
And-
just split on the seam, right on the bottom.
Yeah, and the thing with it is, when we had it at the shop, it was opening and closing pretty damn easy.
Yeah,
Um,
Ruined.
which is kind of a part of the rear stiffeners thing. I think would cause a bit more rigidity that it may have held up a bit longer than what I put it through. But it was doomed to fail from the beginning. The asshole before me, I think we've chatted about this before, but he cut the the hatch to fit his bumper instead of cutting the bumper to fit the I don't know.
I would have done the same if I'm being brutally honest. I would have just tacked it back together.
See, that's the difference. This was a random hack job done in his backyard, and now
I
knowing
did
that
mine in
we-
my backyard. I turned my hatch in my backyard.
Oh, God,
I turned my doors in my backyard too.
Your hatch is trimmed?
Yeah,
I've literally
barely.
never noticed that.
It's tastefully trimmed. You wouldn't even know.
Yeah, well, apparently I didn't.
See, those are the
But-
best ones. The ones you don't even notice.
Graham, what's your most hated mod?
I mean, it depends on your definition of hate. Like, just overall worst mod, worst to install, the one that made me the most mad.
I think
All the
All the above.
genre
Hmm.
was like you wish you never did, not necessarily putting it on. I just went that route because that's the only thing
Yeah.
that I could
that-
even I misconstrued the question and kind of went in a different direction, just so you know.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I mean, I haven't done anything. Usually, I've got this mentality where if I'm gonna buy something, I'm gonna put it in, even if it's shitty. I'm gonna deal with it, and I'm gonna try to make the best of it. But I will say the worst thing that I've done, um, of recent memory, was I went with, and this is probably just related to something screwed up with my setup, but I had an I hate to throw shade because they make great stuff, but Ironman 4x4 transmission mount. I've got Brown Dog motor mounts. It's a rubber joint. We won't go into that again. But
Although I will
I-
issue one quick correction. Graham, you were right. SFR uses a softer poly. It's not like a full-blown poly mount. It's like a squishy mount. So
There you
I'm
go.
definitely going with those.
All right, so we are going to go that way. Either way, so I bought a more solid rubber mount than a factory Cherokee mount. If you know what a factory Cherokee mount looks like, maybe a Wrangler too. I'm not sure what they use. It's like a big piece of rubber sandwiched between two pieces of metal, and it somehow holds everything together. And there's some metal in between, but it always breaks and doesn't work right. So I bought this rubber mount from Ironman, and it's a solid piece. But let me tell you, putting that thing in sucked. Like, the transmission was not sitting where it wanted to sit, and that may just be because my
So
cross
you were
member is messed
fighting
up.
it?
I was fighting it to get it in. Anytime I had to do any sort of work with the cross member, it was a nightmare to take out and put back in. I've never had that much trouble with a mount ever. Ultimately, I just went to the part store, grabbed a brand new factory mount for $20, and threw it in there. It's already broken. They break every other trip, but I don't know. I just can't deal with. If I redo my cross member, I may try to make it work a little better because I was using the Clayton mount or the Clayton cross member, as you know, with just with that on top. I don't know if the centering on that was different than it is factory. I don't know if the factory one has more give. Maybe it's got a little bit of play side to side. I don't know. Either way, it was probably. I mean, it wasn't an expensive modification, but it definitely cost me a bunch of time. I had to modify it. There was like just a whole bunch of bullshit involved with it. I'd love to use it
Well-
because when I did have it in there, it worked great. Like solid. Like drivetrain didn't move an inch. It definitely made a noticeable difference in my ability to shift. Like just even on the road, it had a different feel to it that I liked, but
Solid.
not worth it. Not
Did you
worth it in the long
notice
run.
any less play? I don't know what you have for a shift linkage, but I know that kind of deteriorating tranny mounts will cause like shift linkage like problems. Did you notice that it was a little bit more smooth or anything like that?
Yeah,
Well, the
My shift setup-
AX15s are direct.
Oh, I didn't.
well,
know that.
no, I think I know what he means. You mean the transfer case and stuff.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah,
sorry.
so my shifter's always been kind of fitzy because it's only got two bolts holding it in. It's supposed to have those rivets, or
That's
it's like a maybe not. It's like a
Oh yeah,
threaded
like
piece.
the thread nuts or the riv nuts.
Yeah,
yes.
but they all rotted out, so I had to take two big bolts, drill two holes on either corner. Forget why I didn't do all four, but I did two. So it kind of flaps around in there. It's never sat right. Part of the reason we're doing the 205 and the doubler is and getting rid of the entire floor because it's just all fucked under there and it's just not worth it.
Oh,
I
so
didn't
you
notice
know-
anything there, but if you've ever gone from shitty motor mounts to good motor mounts and noticed a difference, it's like the next step from that.
So I actually do have something to add. When you tossed the whole rejected mod idea onto me, I was even thinking, my goddamn Durango steering box. Fuck that thing. It is goddamn useless. There's no point to it. Oh, it has a .03 bigger steering shaft. Fuck you. That thing is stupid. Don't waste your fucking money. It's I swear to God, I think it overheats my pump more than anything. Granted, if I got a steering box cooler, then it would probably help a lot. But everybody was saying it would help with performance. It'll help with a bunch of other things. It is fucking useless. Just get a normal goddamn Cherokee pump. Or
Well,
not pump, steering
before
box.
you damn that thing to hell, Cody, put a cooler on it.
Yeah, one thing I'll add into this conversation though, um, I don't know why, but I know that the Cherokee steering boxes are generally recommended more if you're going hydro assist, so keep that in mind. I think part of Cody's problem would definitely be the lack of power steering cooler.
Yes, I think it is that too. But I'm just saying in the sense like there's no improvement. I have honestly, granted, I believe it's for longevity. I don't believe it's for instantaneous gratification. I think it's because it's a little bit beefier that it's meant to.
Well, I think we just had some technical difficulties with Cody. He'll be back in a moment if I had to venture a guess.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
in this intermission, I will say every box, whether it be, I mean, I don't buy good remans, but the part store reman boxes are always junk. If you want a
That
good
they
steering
are.
box, just find a factory Cherokee steering box. It doesn't matter the mileage. Just do this the input seal and the sector shaft seal, and it'll be good. Like that's all you need. I've had the best
Graham,
luck with those boxes.
I'm not trying to throw everyone else under the bus, but you do have some technical abilities. Also, welcome back, Cody. Glad to see
Thank
you
you.
got
Sorry
your
about that.
technical issues resolved.
It was just a quick stroke. No big deal. Don't worry about it.
Oh, good old internet.
Computer, but same thing. But yeah, I think you are right, Graham. I wish I had known you guys at the time of doing it. I had a major shaft play in my old steering box, so that's why I went with the Durango box, thinking that it would be an upgrade. So if I had known you guys at the time, then I obviously would have just gone with another Cherokee box. And by the way, Rock Auto will not take your Cherokee box as a core for a Durango box, so don't try because they will send it back in with a nice note saying "Go fuck yourself." So.
Well, I mean, you did send in the wrong part.
Yeah,
I would
true.
have sent
It's
back
not
a
the
note
same
saying
box.
"Go fuck yourself."
They actually did, by the way. That wasn't a joke. Like it literally said, "This is not the right part. Go fuck yourself." So I was like, "Oh, thanks." Like,
I don't know about the "go fuck yourself." That'd be
I,
a
I,
little rough.
I wish I could find it. It was back from like 2017. Obviously don't have it anymore, but yeah, I swear to God, I literally said, "Go fuck yourself." Go
So, what
fuck
about
yourself.
Kish? Do you have any major regrets for modifications that you did?
I don't regret any of my mods, but the one thing that I hated the most putting on my Jeep was my front stiffeners. Only because who did I get them from? I think Dirtbound didn't include the hole for the upper control arm access hole. So I noticed that after I finished welded both sides on.
Oh no. Well, they
So-
don't expect you to use that hole.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I was just about to say that.
Well, they might not expect people to use them, but some people do,
Well, that was
And
my thoughts on that.
Let me tell you, it was a motherfucker to find, locate, and drill out those holes. Because at the same time, I was supposed to be doing brand new control arms because mine were shot.
hmm Yeah,
So
so
it
you
pushed
couldn't. It's not like
everything
something you could just
back,
leave
like-
to the side. You had to do it.
It pushed everything back like a solid week and a half because I had to work around my work schedule for everything, and it was just super shitty.
Yeah, that sounds obnoxious. I
Well-
do want to add. Sorry, Richie. Continue. What were you saying?
No, it looked like Luke was trying to say something.
I did want to add something to the steering box combo. Um, I don't know if there is an actual box that is an upgrade, but I see people throwing around random boxes that will happen to bolt into Cherokee frames as an upgrade. And I think that's sort of an interesting thing to bring up. Like, at what point is an upgrade not actually an upgrade? It's just,
Different.
I don't know.
Well, I know part of the reason that people throw the S10 box out there is because the S10 box, depending on what you're doing with it, you can get it in the IROC box, I think it is. off of like a Camaro. The reason that those are upgrades is because they have a different steering ratio, so you can pick a little bit better. But yeah.
Like, would it like a slower ratio? I would want a faster ratio.
Well, they are a faster ratio.
With bigger tires, you're already going to get a more response out of less steering, I think, right?
Yeah, it could
I forget
depend
which
on
way
what
it
you're
goes.
running for a pump and a ram, though. You might need to throw more steering at it, or quicker steering setup at it if you have, oh, excuse me, large lines and a drilled out box. I would imagine that you'd want a quicker ratio to keep up with your ram.
Yeah, but isn't the ram dictated by the fluid being pushed from the box,
It
right?
is, but if the box is drilled out, wouldn't you want a quicker ratio because it would be pushing more fluid and
Well, I guess it depends on what you're doing. For highway
indeed it
driving, I
does.
really don't need it to be
Well,
twitchy as fuck.
so the only thing that could think of is like, is there a point that the ratio is so far off compared to your RAM that you're starting to turn your like you're fighting the two? Like if you
No,
so
the
then
box
how do you like combat that, you know?
in my limited hydro experience, um,
Ooh, I
drilling
saw
out the
something.
pump and just that's what makes the biggest difference. The more you drill out the pump, the faster it's going to turn. But the box is what determines how much fluid is going to the ram, because the ram's only moving when there's, the box is having trouble. I mean, it does move along with it, but if you don't have a ram connected to anything, you take your steering wheel and just turn it back and forth with no pressure on it, it's not going to do anything till you go full lock, and then it's going to be like, oh hey, I'm going to push the ram out all the way. So the ram's it's just helping along, at least in hydro assist, which is why it's called hydro assist.
So, but I mean it more in the sense of like, let's say, so if you're well, because I know with hydraulic lines, it's one feeding, one pulling, one pulling, one feeding. Like like the two different lines do the two different things. I was just
Mhm.
more saying in the sense of like, if you started going to like a bunch of different boxes now, does the flow put to the pump ever start fighting the flow that's put to the ram because your steering is
Um,
different?
it flows in sequence, if you will. What I was talking about more so was like, say for example, you're using a longer throw pitman arm, you might want a different ratio. Or if you're trying to do something where you're trying to get like less turns to lock, for example, say like on a Ultra 4 stock car or something like that. That's what I was talking about.
Okay, I got you.
Mhm.
It does sound twitchy as fuck though. I feel like that'd be scary at high speeds.
Yeah.
And the binding you're talking about, Cody, it does happen if you try to change directions quickly.
Hmm.
The hydro ram won't react as quickly as the box does, so you'll stick for a second before you go.
For
Yeah.
higher, like for lower end pumps, or like is that just kind of a generic thing that
Just
happens
in
with
general,
every?
the
Okay,
fluid has to change directions. So
gotcha.
yeah,
That has to do with the size of the cylinder, because I don't have that.
huh.
Oh,
What
interesting
size
Um,
enough.
cylinder do you have?
I have fuck, what the fuck? 1 3/4 by, I think I have a 1 inch shank on the ram by 8 inches of throw. So on the return side, it takes a little bit less. So I do notice a very, very slight difference with the turning side to side.
Cool. That's cool to know.
Um, I'm gonna throw it back to worst mods if that's all right, because I kind of got missed on that. But worst mod I ever did was build an Overlander and then cut it in half and try and make a buggy out of it. If I'm being completely and utterly honest, that rig was like a combination of a bunch of things that just never should have been. So
Just to be clear, Luke, you're talking about your ZJ buggy, right?
yes, I am talking about the ZJ buggy I built. It was a 97 ZJ on a Dana 50 10.5 with a radius or a shorter radius arm setup up front and a um, triangulated four link in the rear. And I had originally built it, I'd mentioned this on another podcast, as an Overlander, but when I cut it up and my suspension and everything else about the Jeep that would have been fine on an Overlander wasn't okay, on a supposed buggy. It ended up being a little bit of a nuisance for me to maintain. And, you know, there was a bunch of other random issues that came from cutting the roof off because, like, I flooded out my wiring. So the night before I went to one of the events, I was out there with um, the owner's, not owner's manual, I'm sorry, the, oh, what the hell is it? It's like the Chrysler book. Why the fuck is the name escaping me? But basically, it's got the good wiring diagram in it, and I was snipping wires out of it trying to find the short and to get rid of the excess wiring. So
And
that
did
was.
this is I didn't realize you built Ducky as an overland rig. That's
Well, it
just
wasn't quite an
horrible.
overland rig.
It's the Haynes manual, by the way.
It wasn't the Haynes.
Maybe.
It was most definitely not the Haynes. It was the dealership one because it was about 3 times the thickness of Haynes, and the wiring was on page like 158 of the PDF.
Huh.
Because it was technically a PDF, but you know, I'm
Yeah,
sitting
I
there.
do have a PDF of my Cherokee wiring. I forget where I got it. I think somebody had a subscription to one of those big card database things, and I was like, I want the PDF for the Cherokee. They gave it to me. Still got it. Probably the same vein of shit that you're talking about.
Yeah, it was something along those lines. And that was just such a major pain in the ass. And Ducky was built like it was meant to be a street Jeep that I could drive and go and run blacks. That was like the goal. And instead, I tried to run blacks and reds on a street Jeep that I didn't know what I was doing when I built. On
Hmm.
the current one, the only bad modification that I have done so far has been the Milestars, and that was once again just a classic situation of a tire that had no business where I was trying to force it to be.
Yeah, those tires. Just
So,
continued
did you ever-
waiting for them to break in. Never did. Never did.
So did you ever notice that you were kind of not trail scabbing, but like were impeding on other people because of those tires on trail?
No.
No?
I think that with the group that we had, I didn't ever feel like I was ever really a trail scab. I was definitely trail scabbing when the motor blew because I had no power limping out of there, but I mean, otherwise, everyone that we wheel with has been pretty cool about everything. Like, even when I say with the current rig, hey, I'm not in the mood to do this, I generally will get like 1 or 2 lines of shit, but you know, at the
That's
same
because we love
time,
you.
we let
We
people with Broncos into the club, so you know.
full size nasty rigs with carburetors. Carburetors.
Yeah. So just a
We're
side
talking
note, Backyard Built is technically an off-road club, not a Jeep club. Just
correct.
throwing that out there, and that's one of the
That is
reasons I
true.
like it.
You,
But
you don't have to have a Jeep to roll with us.
We
It
have
just
we have a
helps.
guy with a Unimog. It's okay, hold on, sorry. It's a
A
Russian military vehicle that's kind of like a fucking Unimog, and it's awesome. And
What is it?
sadly,
Pinsgauer.
yeah,
It's a Pinsgauer.
that
I
thing's cool.
don't believe
bless
that
you.
this guy exists.
He's had a lot of life
I've never
problems.
met him.
He does
He
exist.
he does more overlanding stuff, I think. I've seen him wheel with us a few times early on in the clubs.
that thing's cool though. I would
Yeah.
love to get him out on trails. Probably like a brokerage run, just so because of that he can have a good time and not have to worry about the thing. I mean, the thing looks like it's probably 9,000 pounds. It's solid metal.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it's got like 635s on it, and it's like a Caterpillar. It just goes.
Scaling on that thing is not the greatest because you look at it and it doesn't look all that big. It looks kind of small.
It doesn't have much flex, but it does have 6 wheels, so it sort of makes up for it.
and
Fair
traction.
enough. Fair enough.
I was gonna say, I'm sure that probably feels like driving a Bobcat down the trail, which is utterly horrible.
Probably.
Like just stiff suspension, ruined back. Like, oh, I couldn't even imagine.
I will
Um,
say that my stiff ass rear suspension definitely led to me blowing apart the rear leaf mounts, and that was definitely my worst trail breakage as far as what was involved with the repair on it.
I couldn't imagine your lack of travel and immense bump stops ever Actually, no. Did you really? You only had the bump stops off the shocks, right? That was what your.
I had the bump stocks were, yeah, they were built into the shocks. And then I had thrown a couple of modified washers on them to just
Mhm.
fine tune it a little bit, because when they squished down all the way, I was still getting tire rub, so a little razzle McDazzle, and it was okay.
Yeah, I was just more teasing you on the fact that like it worked. The Jeep worked, but yeah, that rear suspension was definitely impeding you a lot on comfortability. Is that even a fucking word?
Comfort.
But we're comfortability. That's the fucking word I'm going with. And yeah, comfort. The just generic comfort. But also probably causing a bit of wear and tear on that Jeep more than it really deserved. I guess it was just a simple, well, simple, but going with the 4-link, I think you will just notice an immense difference with comfort and less extreme beatings on your Jeep.
Or it'll just suck.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be bad, and I could just be bad. These are options.
You are very bad.
Otherwise, I haven't really had that much awful breakage this year that hasn't been attributed to ancient motors being ancient motors that don't want to run anymore. What about you guys? I know Cody's had a couple of entertaining ones.
Well, nothing too crazy other than the obvious axle shafts. The worst being when we went snow wheeling and I got myself in between two pyramid rocks with the front diff and the rear diff. And as I've learned from the bigger axle folk, if you can still move an inch forward, that means you haven't hit it hard enough to get it bumped up and over the rock. So I was just sitting there, just going reverse, wham, drive, wham, reverse, wham, and then just went into drive, cut it a little too far. I believe it was driver to get the pumpkin out of the way, and I just shredded the axle shaft and was stuck in like a nasty, muddy, snowy spot and had to do it with hand tools because we all took out our power tools. So I was sitting there with a breaker bar with a 19 and well, no, I had the wheel, wheel, whatever you want to fucking call it, the big star thing, wheel wrench, and in a breaker bar with a 13 mil, and it sucked. But other than that, I've broken a few yokes on the rear pinion because I'm an idiot and was destroying my Dana 35. My U-bolts were way too loose, and honestly, it was all user error. But I mean, other than that, I really haven't had any major breaks. Obviously my header panels I've destroyed a few times, taken out a hatch or
Those
two.
don't count. Those are
Yeah.
replacement items or wear items as, if you're doing less than one a season, you're doing okay.
Fair. That's fair. Actually, I've been good this season. I still got that orange hatch.
Yeah, because you hate it.
and-
It won't die.
You're
Until I
not
started
wrong.
loving my white hatch, the thing wouldn't go away.
True. I mean that makes sense.
I love Cody's spooky booty.
How? It's so ugly. Why do you guys like it? So it does fit well because the Jeep is black, any color you go with, but the orange is a really nice fucking touch. I'm not gonna
We
lie.
could
to you.
trade. You want the green one?
I
With,
will take the green one. I don't even care. Granted, but I don't want to screw you over and giving you this like
Ha-
bent in half.
Have you seen the green one?
I'll
Do you
take
know
it.
how fucked it is?
I will take it. I'll take anything at this point.
If you look at it wrong, that back glass is gonna pop. I don't know how it hasn't already.
I'll pull it out and put some plexi in there at this point. I don't care.
And-
Why would you use a new hatch?
Krylon has the finest grade spray black you will ever grab.
You could
Duplicolor.
commit
is
the
actually-
ultimate sin and just spray paint the orange hatch,
No.
the orange
No.
hatch black.
No. If I'm not doing that if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that with a hatch that's actually decent to start off with. I'm gonna pull the glass out. Same like go to the guys that are gonna be taking my. Actually, I'll probably give it to one of you guys in case you guys blow out the glass without actually breaking the hatch. So that way or I'll keep it so that way in case somebody needs it, it's there, and then just get it plexiglass. I mean, I've done the research and I know that doing the rib nuts with some clear silicone will cause a decent seal and make it so if it breaks, it's just gonna crack or like snap in half. It's not gonna just explode.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna definitely do it with like a decent newish hatch, so that way if I sand it down, do all the work, and then I spray paint it black, well, guess what? From now on, I'm just gonna keep spray painting it black every time it gets scuffed
Yeah,
up.
and then you're gonna roll the Jeep the next weekend and crush the hatch.
And then we're just gonna use the high lift to just stretch the body back to a normal shape, and we're gonna like zip tie the hatch back on. It'll be sick. Well, I'll just actually at that point I'll just gut the hatch so that way there's no internals and it's just the flappy bit on the back that just kind of gets like screwed on or something.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, I've got a couple good breaks that I can talk about.
I was just about to ask you. So
I've got my favorite one, the one that I've probably caused the most damage on, which is what triggered the swap to 1 tons, was at Brookridge when I tried to do split rock and put my tires in the complete wrong spot, both tires.
That's like your
Yeah.
trademark.
I know, this was like the beginning of it all, really. It was catastrophic. Twisted both the front shafts, like the splines themselves were fucked up. I broke one tooth off of the ring gear, and I popped the upper control arm mount off of the axle, twisted the truss up. It was a mess. Getting it out wasn't the worst removal, but it was kind of painful when your upper link is just ratchet straps. Like, not even good ratchet straps. They were like crappy little ones that you get from Harbor Freight. We had like 8 of them. I had 8 of them, I think, at the start, and I think when we got out, I had 2. I think I've got 1 left to this day. Is much shorter than it used to be.
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah, so that one was probably the most stuff I've broken at one point in time. But I think the other crazy break that I had, that wasn't even when I was off-roading, but it was I was just driving on the road, really, was my steering box where the sector shaft go. It wasn't, sorry, it's not at the box. It was at the steering wheel. There's a coupler right below that front kick panel by the when you have to open it up every time. It's the plastic piece and the metal piece. I don't know what you call that part, but that's what lets you access that underneath section of the steering shaft. And right there's a joint where it connects. Well, it's an aluminum threaded or splined piece, and I must have been wrenching on it back and forth pretty hard at some point. I was having power steering issues. I had the Hydro. It was still a fairly new setup. I don't know if I had it drilled out or not at this point. But what ended up happening is we were at a car meet, me and Colin, and we were stacking the Jeeps. It's just what you do. Everybody's like, "Whoa, look at that!
Yeah.
You can put a tire on one tire, and it looks cool." So we'd done that. I had driven down there. No
Honestly,
issues.
like normies absolutely fucking love that.
I know, it's hilarious.
To us, it's like one of the most simple things, but dude, normal folk.
If you've never seen it, you're like, what?
Oh, dude, they
How?
nut over it. Even people who are into Jeeps who just don't understand that lockers is what gets you to do that. They're just like, oh, that's
I
fucking
know.
cool, dude.
I hope that the 2021 car show season is normal, because I want to go and stalk some of your more normie friends, Cody, because I feel like they need to see what happens when you get a little bit bored and you know what the edge of street legal is.
Oh, dude, if you East Granby, Connecticut, it's probably about 25 minutes from you guys, maybe 30.
Yeah, it's a 30-minute ride for me.
Dude, Mark's Classic Car Show. It's even worth it for Graham to come out. Like, there 900 cars on every single Monday night. It's a sick show. There's they have
That's
different.
huge.
Yeah, dude, it's every single Monday too, and each night there's different people. There's probably like your usual 500. Sorry to cut you off, Graham, and kind of go on a totally different.
No,
that's
fine.
But dude, there's your 400 average people that always go, and then there's 500 new people almost every single week. But the cool part is there's Jeep week, there's Ford week, there's Mustang week, there's Corvette week. So the time of the Jeep week would probably be the best time if you guys even wanted to consider it, maybe taking a Tuesday off or something and coming down Monday. But yeah, if we all stacked up, dude, they'd be shitting themselves, I swear.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That would be kind of entertaining. And Graham, you're always welcome to crash at the house if you need to.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Go ahead. Sorry.
Back to where I was going with it. I'm pretty sure when I stacked it on Colin's Jeep, something must have happened with either when I was getting off of his Jeep or I'm not sure. Either way, I had rolled off of his tire. I don't know if I had started the Jeep, which may have been the problem, but it drove fine initially. There was one point where it wouldn't. Actually, no. I'll just give it the whole rundown. Got off of Colin's Jeep. We had unstacked him, driving out. Go to take a turn. Wouldn't even. I went to turn right. Wouldn't turn right. Like almost middle of an intersection. Gave it more RPM. Pump worked itself out. Turned. That should have been red flag number 1. Took another turn. I was like wiggling the wheel, making sure it wasn't gonna not turn anymore. Took that turn fine. I was like, we're good. We're good. It's fine. We stop at a stoplight. And I go and I wiggle my wheel. And it feels normal. Bunk. No steering. 360. And I was in the middle of. Fortunately, it was a 2-lane road. And I had somebody behind me, somebody in front of me, and the person in front They just didn't register it. They continued to go, but I think Dan was behind me. So I got out of my Jeep. I said, Dan, I've got no steering. We need to get my Jeep off of the road.
Wait, so did you pull the box off of the frame, or did you do something on the inside?
No, it was the actual splines on the aluminum steering shaft stripped.
Oh, shit.
Like there's a bolt that goes through
into
that.
your steering box.
There's a bolt that
Jesus.
tightens that all down, and it was tight. I've never touched that bolt ever, and Colin had never seen it. I've never seen it. I've never heard of anybody else who's had the problem. Maybe it was loose. But
I'm wondering, potentially. One, I just have to say that's the most horrifying break I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
My theory behind what happened there is I'm willing to bet you probably rolled it down off of Colin's tire with it not started, and so instead of having the hydraulic force under pressure, it had like just the mechanical force, and that all went into that one aluminum piece.
That was my thought too. I don't know. Either way, it's got a steel splined steering shaft in it now. It was spendy, but after seeing the aluminum one die,
That's why I say that was cheating, because we were talking about trail brakes, and that's not a trail brake. But
Well,
it's fine.
it's
A little
still-
cheater.
trail brake is just a brake in general. It was like semi off-roading. We'd stacked up and done Jeep things, right?
I should have talked about my track bar brake doing death wobble going down the road doing 40 then. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Jesus.
Go ahead, you're good.
No, that's the end of the story. Really, I think I just put it in reverse and it turned the wheels that it turned it off the road, and we put it back together.
Oh,
Clock spring broke, so I had a misfire after that, but
oh my god.
I did drive it home the next day.
All for a
That's
car
it.
show, man. All for a car show.
Yeah, I know.
Holy shit.
Insanity.
The things we do.
Do it for
Hey.
the car show.
So, Kish, what's the worst break you've ever had?
My worst would probably be my radiator at Battlegrounds.
That was probably one of the
And that-
coolest breaks I've seen. That was fun. It wasn't like, okay, well, it wasn't necessarily the coolest, but like it was definitely like one of those just like poof, it was like a firework. It was fucking awesome.
It was entertaining because it was, I want to say we had 12-ish inches of snow, and me and Cody were like, no. Did we have more than that? Cody?
It was like 18. It was almost like a 20 inches
Oh,
solid. Yeah.
So
no base.
So we had like 18, 20 inches of snow, and me and Cody were two of the smallest Jeeps there that day. And somehow I ended up as trail lead going up this massive fucking hill. So I was like, let's see how it does it. So I go up a little bit, I start spinning, so I back up as far as I can, and I just hammer it. And I'm sitting almost at rev limiter. I'm just barely off of rev limiter. And I'm just very slowly going up this hill. It took me, I think the video is like 7 or 8 minutes long to go up this hill. I get to the
Just
top and it's
sustained.
just 7 minutes of like 4,000 RPMs or 4,400 RPMs or some shit like that, just nonstop at like less than 1 mile an hour.
You've made it to the top, though.
I made it to the top, and I was like, "Huh, that is in the red." And I killed the Jeep, and I went to hop out to pop the hood because I was gonna start just dumping snow on it, the engine. When all of a sudden it just went poof, just
Rest in
giant cloud of
pepperonis.
smoke, giant cloud of smoke.
And somehow your
And
head gasket held on through that.
I know, still the factory head gasket.
Damn.
It was pretty cool
But
though. It was definitely. Go ahead,
It's
sorry.
funny because I have it on video on my old GoPro. You just poof, motherfucker.
Didn't Luke have the trailer that day? It was like one of those
Yeah.
weird days. Yeah, it worked out.
They're not that weird
it was-
considering the status of my Jeep.
It was actually the first time Luke ever towed me somewhere, like to go wheeling.
Yeah,
Now, was it a sign or a curse?
probably a curse. Look at me, I don't trailer anywhere, and I don't
Oh.
break that often.
It was a little bit of both.
I'm gonna say that, in my opinion, though, your worst break might not have been that. I would say maybe the worst break would be the one that happened at your house with the when you popped the U-joint on the Dana 30, it took out your ball joints. We had to fix your brake problem that you were having after that, and that was a lot of work to get your Jeep off of the trail. We were on that for a solid hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, but most of that was just due to my extreme negligence. Like, you'd been after me for a fucking solid year to swap out that caliper bracket or the knuckle or whatever the fuck it was.
To swap the knuckle, and then it was because there was an issue with one of the bolts was messed up, so it was like tapped through with the correct size through bolt.
Yeah.
But I am unfortunately that friend that will haggle or that will harass you about the shit that needs to get done on your rig for like all of eternity until it gets done. But you know, hey, what are you gonna
But
do?
thankfully, and I have to say, the best part about you being that haggling friend, Luke, is you waited until after my Jeep was back on the road to go, haha, told you so. You didn't do it until after.
But
There
that's
was
half
some
the fun.
grumblings.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's half the fun is giving you shit while you're doing it. I mean, I still have
Well,
pictures on Kate's camera of us just all sitting there just staring at you like,
Eating
"So,
pizza.
Richie?"
Eating
Yeah,
gas station pizza.
eating gas station
It,
pizza.
Luke knows my temperament very well, and when something fucks up because of my stupidity, and then you start haggling me, going, haha, I fucking told you so, you dumbass. I normally get very angry, and it's just it's not a good situation.
Well, thank you for the heads up because I'm totally that asshole friend would haggle you during the situation just to be
Yeah.
accessible. So thanks for the heads up. Appreciate that.
But I do have to say though, the whole thing about the radiator is going back to Battlegrounds every other time I've gone up that hill. It's taken me less than 30 seconds to go up the hill.
Yep.
Like,
So-
yeah. 20 inches of snow on the ground. I can imagine it would take a bit longer.
It was
And-
slick when we went there that one
Yeah,
time.
Yeah.
well, no one else had to take 7 minutes to go up that hill.
Well, you were in the front. You had to clear all the
I
snow.
know.
That's not true. It took me a decent bit. Like me and my two buddies were in my Jeep bouncing, just saying like I think I can, just to get us to kind of scooch past the.
But you did get up the hill faster than I did.
Yeah, but I also have 100,000 miles less on the engine. I was able to beat on it a bit more. Like she's a.
Were you on the
freaking girl.
IROX? Was that? Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah, that's
I-
part of the problem.
I think my problem was that was a junkyard radiator that I grabbed.
Yeah,
Sure,
that's
And
good.
it looked like it was out of a well-used Cherokee.
Mm.
Fair.
Yeah.
That's definitely fair.
I think with the other break, a little bit better spotting might have helped to have prevented that too, because like I saw that you were gonna kind of like hit your diff, but I didn't think anything of it, and then all of a sudden the Jeep slid over 1.5 feet and it went pop. So I
Well,
probably could have made a better call on trying to get you in a better line.
the issue with that is the Jeep didn't actually slide over. I was driving the Jeep over in that direction. It's just I didn't realize the angle that I was actually at. So my when my tire dropped, it slammed into a hole that I didn't know was there.
I know,
And
that's what I'm saying. I was trying to
ding.
get you to go the other way because you were going into that hole, and the first time you tried it, I was like, I better tell him to back. I don't know, maybe he could get away with just bumping it. So I told you to hit it a little harder, and without giving you the correction to go the opposite direction, all of a sudden I'm watching a genital grabber assault a 33.35-inch hole, and
God.
it didn't
Yeah,
want to come out.
So long story short, I just pulled a Graham and I put my
Yep.
tire somewhere that it should not have been.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's one of the hardest things about spotting for Graham is you have to look for every possible opportunity for him to stuff a tire into the worst possible
Hey.
place.
Because
Hey,
it will
you
go
can't-
there.
You can't fault the guy for trying to shove his rubber into any hole he sees, okay? You know, you can't. He's just a man, okay? Jesus, he's just trying
Yeah,
to fucking
but-
procreate. Trying to make-
I don't know, sometimes we gotta question you, Graham. Sometimes you just gotta question some of your decisions.
I mean, don't we all just try to make more parts out of one part? Come on now, like it's human nature at this point.
So, on a more serious note, instead of just, joking about like Kish's fitting a general where it didn't belong and Graham's inability to avoid a crevice that's like 13.5 inches wide by at least 18 inches tall. What are the good qualities?
Undercut with a good undercut usually too.
Yes. What are the good qualities of a good, or what are the qualities of a good spotter? Wow, why couldn't I just spit that fucking sentence out? I don't know.
So honestly, I mean, having a spotter is literally the second eyes that you don't have. I mean, you can only see what your rig is allowing you to see. That's why buggies have a major advantage over a full body rig, because they generally don't have the fenders. They generally are sitting kind of up and over the engine, so they could see it, like where their tires are pointed. So that spotter, if they know your rig well enough, if they have a general understanding of the suspension numbers that you have under your rig, they can pretty much get you up almost anything, as long as your rig and your balls are capable of making it up it. I personally think spotters are phenomenal. Sometimes even when it's like a dumb rock garden at brokerage before one of the blacks that is, everybody's like, oh, it's no big deal, but every single one catches your diff. Even a spotter in that situation can just be like, hey, little bit driver, go straight, you're doing good, don't worry about it. But I mean, sometimes there's also the chance of a spotter becoming a problem because every asshole and their brother thinks that they're a good wheeler. You got 14 guys standing around you while you're doing one obstacle, and it can get frustrating. Pardon me. It can get frustrating. I mean, you could have 14 dudes yelling at you to do all the same thing, but you're not hearing a fucking thing of what they're saying.
I think
Yeah.
all of you were here that one time that I actually snapped.
Oh yeah, I was with
Ah.
you. I was in the passenger seat going,
Yeah.
okay, Cody, hold on, because this might get fucking interesting. Like, but
So-
it happens, and it's good for you to get that angerment out, because it literally nobody was fucking listening. Nobody was saying anything beneficial. The one person that you wanted to talk was shutting up because he was like, all right, Luke's about to get frustrated, so if I don't shut up here, then he's only gonna hear everybody else. And then it finally took you to the point of just like, beat the shit out of it, floor it, do something dumb, and then everybody telling you like, hey, take a breather, and who do you want to listen to? So
Well, it was that, and then it was also like after that, it was the problems that I was having with the rig, because it was like I just shut it off because I needed to actually hop out and see what the hell I was hung up on, and then talk to the people that were spotting me. Because I think that Mike is probably one of the top 5 spotters I've ever driven with, and For me, Colin and Graham would definitely be on a similar list, and Timmy Clark as well. Timmy's a God's gift to spotting
I
because
hate you
he
all equally, so don't worry. Every single one of you
it's
suck.
fine. You need more seat time. Once you get some more seat time, you'll be climbing. You just need to get a little more altitude.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I literally only have a year and a half under my belt of wheeling, like major wheeling. I've been dabbling with Jeeps for a while now, um, but I mean, do you feel that you would have even made it up that obstacle at Brookridge if you didn't have a spotter?
Probably not, because I needed to, and
So would you feel that a spotter is just as important as lockers?
Hmm.
now that's
Yes.
a tough question, and I'm
No.
gonna have to answer no.
Depends on the obstacle, but no, I wouldn't say it's required.
If you
You can
can't
be your own
even
spotter.
get to the obstacle where you need a good spotter,
But
eh,
throttle can get you through almost anything. So if you get
No.
yourself in a fucked up position that your lockers or your non-lockers can't get you out of, the spotter can at least put your tires on something
I
solid.
would not have ended up in the position that I was in without lockers. There's just no way that would have happened. But
But do you feel that a spotter or lockers could give you more confidence on an obstacle?
Lockers,
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
have to agree.
Why? I mean, your experience. A
You can
spotter could
consistently-
have more experience, just like you said. Might
I mean,
has
you've
more
seen it with
experience.
some of Dan's stuff, right? I mean, he can get up obstacles without a lock in his. I don't. He's got a locker and
Yeah, he's fully
he's
locked
locked
now.
in the
fully
rear.
locked now. But
No, he's.
I
He's
mean, I
locked in
remember
front
on
now,
the
too.
on the red Jeep. Did he even have lockers in the red Jeep? I don't remember.
Yeah, he
but,
had a welded rear. That was it.
Yeah, just
okay.
the
I
rear.
mean, watching that thing. I mean, he could get up stuff, but it wasn't because he could be spotted. We were like, okay, point that direction and hit the gas pedal and hope you make it up it, just because that's just
But
what it was.
I mean it more in the sense of like a confidence level, meaning like, do you think that having a traction adder it would give you more confidence than a more experienced spotter?
As
That's
I
where
have said, coming at it from my position, I don't even like. I wouldn't be considering doing what I am doing without them. So when I am spotting for someone on a black trail, I consider it a given myself that they're locked front and rear. Or if I'm spotting on like a red obstacle for, say, Colin, Graham, Richie, Cody, one of you guys, when you guys are feeling more adventurous, to me a it's not even a consideration if you're going to be trying the harder stuff that it's locked. I think a spotter is a different type of confidence. Spotter is the type of confidence, like, for example, Kish was really good when we were getting into it because where I was getting freaked out in the driver's seat, he'd be like, dude, you're fine. You just need to keep going with it. You're almost there. You're pulling out you're pulling out of the throttle right when you need to be right where you are at.
that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just figured I would throw the idea out there of kind of what.
Well,
the
see,
people are-
like my argument is like the lockers are you need the lockers for a certain level of wheeling, I should say. But the spotters can be used at practically any level of wheeling. So someone who's like just getting into wheeling,
Well, then you'd probably need a spotter more often, right?
yeah,
It
they
might
would
not be
need a
a
spotter.
complicated obstacle, but they don't
they would
necessarily
need a
know where to
spotter
go.
more than lockers.
Yeah, it's
So it's I think it really is like level dependent to how
Yeah.
necessary a spotter is.
So I will also agree with that because like I was expecting to do far more work on the green trails when we had the open run at Brookridge than I was expecting to be doing on the red trails.
So I sorry to cut you off there. So if you feel that way, then what the fuck is the point of a selectable? Why not just weld it? I mean, you have your e-lockers, you have your aux lockers, you have your.
Can we put a pin in this? And I really want to have this conversation. I just want to circle back to it
Oh,
because,
okay.
in my
Sorry.
humble opinion, that deserves a little bit of its own space. That's
Okay.
going to be
Sorry.
a separate conversation. We might end up going on for like 15 minutes about why we like what we like with those.
Okay.
So,
No worries.
I will add to the spotter conversation. The spotters I always have the best time with are it's calm and confidence. When you have both of those, right? If somebody's confident in what they're telling you to do, then it makes me more comfortable doing it, right? If they're like, like I don't know if you're gonna make it up that, like it doesn't inspire me in any confidence to floor it up this obstacle that I have to floor to get up. But if they can come at it, with this, okay, you're right there. Your tire just needs to go up a little more. You need to hit it a little harder. It's just slick and you're not getting as far. And you maybe need to try another gear down because you don't have the wheel speed you think you have. That's my
Yeah.
biggest problem personally is wheel speed. I always underestimate how fast my wheels are moving because I'm
or would
geared
it be
pretty low.
overestimate?
Yeah, I overestimate. My wheels are not moving as fast as I think they are most of the time,
You're bad
which
at
causes a
estimating.
lot
It's
of problems.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty bad. Yep.
Yeah, that's definitely a point for me because it's like, for example, that day at the Wall of Death, I'm sorry, I wasn't feeling it in that rig. However, next to it, I walked that line, which it's a decent line. It would be a lot worse if it was wet and not hero traction that day. But I had Timmy just like, yeah, dude, you're doing perfectly fine, and I've got a front tire that's hanging 1.5 feet in the air, and I'm sitting like, if I was wearing a hat and it fell off, it would hit the hatch. It wouldn't hit the, you know, back of the seat. So the level of confidence that a good spotter gives you is a huge boost, and a second set of eyes is really important. Um,
But what if your tires aren't on the ground and you don't have a spotter? What do you do then?
hope.
They're
Now
not
you're
on the
just-
ground, or they
Now
are
your
on the ground.
confidence is gone. Yeah,
Pray.
I was more alluding to the fact of when we were at Brookridge and Graham was literally like, if you ever seen one of those little carousel boxes, you open them up and there's a little ballerina spinning. I swear to God, that was Graham. The rock was perfectly on his cross member, and he was just like, like fucking,
That's
and
classic. That
he
is
was like,
something that he would do though, because he likes to do that. You were at Ma Bell the day that he decided he was gonna go up the backside of the rock pile at the top, and he
Ugh,
ended
ugh.
up with a rock having to get
That
winched
was
out.
bad.
so
Yeah, that was a similar spot.
but in the sense of like, I was just kidding because like you were talking about confidence in your spotter. I was confident, but I was just like, this is a pretty
Yeah, I mean,
fucked up situation, no matter how I
and
say it. Like,
and that's totally fine. That's that's half the fun, right? But it's my responsibility if I get my Jeep in a shitty spot. I'm not going to blame the spotter because there's a lot of stuff that can happen. But at least if they're coming at me with this confidence that what they think will happen, then I'll give it a shot. That gives me it's like I've been saying over and over. It's a confidence thing for me coming from them, right? As long as you can inspire confidence in me and my inability to drive and your ability to spot, right? Then we're good to go.
all right, well now that makes me feel better. I was definitely like, I was just laughing because I was like, I know what I need the Jeep to do, but
It's
he
just
had no
not
tires
doing
on the
it, yeah.
ground, and at the time, you had just fixed your winch, but like I knew that I needed to, like I was like, all right, I'm just gonna have him winch of this, have him drive forward and keep the winch going. But like I had 4 other people who were like, that's not a good idea. He's gonna flip, and I'm like, first off, I don't think this is not the worst spot for Graham to flip. If he flips, he's just gonna flop over. Second off, I know for a fact that if I tell him to keep his wheel speed up so that way he catches traction on the rock that he was hung up on, and then keep the winch keeping his like the, I guess more like an anchor keeping the front down, then you're fine. But like everybody else was just like, that's not a good idea. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck you. Like, it's
That's
just,
another
Yeah.
thing that I like in a spotter. I like someone that I'm comfortable with because I know that they have experience at it. Like the first time Timmy spotted with me, I literally had never wheeled with him, but I know a ton of people that have, and it was just like, no, he's a good spotter. He's spotted people at Humble Pie, and I'm like, I'm a small fish in that pie, or in that sea, I guess.
it's a fish pie out here.
I don't know, man. But like I'm a small nothing that I am doing is like extreme. So he'll know roughly what to do in this situation, and even if he wasn't going to know it, I had the confidence in the back of my head that this kid knows what he's talking about, so I just did what he said. Um and like when I'm spotting for, you, Graham or Kish, I know all of your rigs really, really well. So getting you guys up an obstacle is very easy for me to do because I know roughly what your rig is going to do. I've had a hand in either building them or helping with the build. I know roughly what the Jeep is, and I know what the driver is going to do because of the amount of time I've spent wheeling with you guys.
So, do you feel that it's like I've noticed a few times that we've gone wheeling with newer people who are fresh to the group or who are friends of a friend of a friend, becoming irritated when they don't trust the spotter, that they just start doing dangerous things, meaning like flooring it unnecessarily, aiming in directions towards people or pushing past people on trail. Uh, do you feel that? Do you feel that that's like worse than having no spotter?
I feel like that's worse than having no spotter, but if I'm being brutally honest, in my experience spotting for everyone that I end up spotting for, I never deal with that.
So we're not going to talk about Battlegrounds with the red YJ.
All right, well, that was one exception, and I really don't want to discuss that if we're being brutally honest. Like,
No, you're
that's
fine.
just not one of those conversations that I feel is appropriate.
Yeah, I was just more saying in the sense of like,
Oh, yeah.
I've experienced that a few times. That not just that day. I've experienced where people are just they don't care, they won't listen, or they only trust one person, but they won't speak up enough to have that
Yeah.
person be their spotter.
Yeah, I understand that. And one thing that I find entertaining is I raise my voice when I'm spotting people because I like to be heard. I have my number one pet peeve is when my shouter is not, when my spotter is not like literally almost yelling at me or shouting at me if I am in the middle of trying to get it and my Jeep's pegged at like 4,800 RPMs. I can't hear you. If you're just gonna say something, I can't stand that. So when I am dealing with Wrangler owners, generally I don't have as much of a problem with that. But at the same time, I still am loud so that way everyone that's with me knows what I am saying if I am the chosen spotter, and I won't spot unless I'm chosen to do it. And I feel like that's a major, maybe not a confidence booster, but like I hate to use a Google term, but like almost an authoritative source. Because like if someone is confidently telling you in a loud voice, listen, you're good. You just need to back up straight, cut your wheel over 2 inches, roll into the throttle as you roll out of the brake pedal, and you'll have it. It helps.
Yep.
See, I tried doing
Yeah.
that with Caitlin, and she yells back at me. So how do I handle that situation?
You don't spot your girlfriend.
I
It
was
is-
just gonna say that.
It is so frustrating. Honestly, it is one of the most frustrating things that I deal with
I
her. It's like,
can't
she-
spot Morgan.
She only reacts to you like that.
yes, because Colin could tell her to do a fucking backflip and jump to the moon, and she'll be like, "Yes, sir," and just fucking do it. And then I'm like, "Hey, babe, just drive over that rock. Like it's a 2-foot rock. You got this." And she's like, "I'm gonna die." Like it is. Oh,
Hey.
dude, it's like,
I'm not.
oh.
I'm not saying anything in particular, but I don't spot for Morgan. If Morgan decides she wants to drive my rig, Colin or Graham is going to spot it. And the
So,
reason for that is because I get a different reaction out of her than someone else would, just like because of the personal interaction.
Uh-huh.
I feel like, to me, it's just easier to let a significant other be spotted by someone else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've definitely come to that conclusion too. Like I'm sure you guys have noticed lately. Like,
Because, like, when
oh,
I was
sorry.
spotting Caitlyn in your rig, I had zero issues with that. It was just, yep, you're good. Cut 2 feet over, and you don't need to bump it. You need to just let it kind of do the floppy IROC thing.
Have you guys actually? It's been a while since you guys have been to Ma Bell. That obstacle is 6 foot deeper than what it was that day that we were there. I'm
Oh,
not
I
kidding,
believe
Oh
it.
yeah.
dude.
That's
It's so like
normal.
there was
You
like a
would not
there's like that.
believe the amount that trail has changed in the 7 years I've been going there. It used to be you could literally drive a stock
A lawnmower up
Cherokee.
it.
Not even a lawnmower. Like, you could get a lawnmower up the bypasses, but you could drive a stock Cherokee up the main trail with like 32s and a minor trim on the fenders.
Even loading dock.
Not loading dock, but you could go up next to loading dock on that little
Yeah.
section right there and make it up that with like 32s and maybe a Aussie in the front if you were going to hit that particular section.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. But like I was just blown away. It literally has 2 new like step ups to it. In that one section that you're talking about where you guided Caitlyn up. And looking at it now, it's like, yeah, at that time, my Jeep would not have made it up that whatsoever. But
Yeah, and it's the same as happened with Brookridge too. We keep going back to Brookridge, but I mean, there's that one obstacle that we were talking about earlier that I made it up and Luke made it up, and then we went back recently. I couldn't even get to the obstacle really. I got like halfway to it and just nothing.
I think it was also partial that it was partially also that wow, I really just fucking said those words completely backwards. That it was raining quite hard, and then it also started snowing. So rocks were cold, and it was completely wet. But
Yeah,
you're not wrong. They sent the buggy guys up that trail 2 hours before we got there.
and they didn't make it up either.
They didn't
And
make
that
it
was
up.
probably better conditions.
Yeah, and it was dug out horribly. But they followed the three try rule. Like
We
literally
had the cut 44 boggers, so we had assault weapons trying to get up that, and they couldn't do it.
Jesus.
Jesus, and
The
we
shovels.
had YJ who was just hammering his Jeep to get up in. He took a good stab at it, but
Yeah,
we all got denied.
yeah, that was true commitment to try and get up.
Alrighty. Anything else we got tonight?
I don't know. I
No?
think that's a pretty good spot to cut it.
All right, guys, keep it rubber side down, shiny side up, and we will see you all next time. Have a good evening.